Cigarnia, where we pair and review books and cigars. Today we have two books, one fiction, one nonfiction. The first, the genesis of that super spy James Bond. The second is about a very real, not so famous, but probably should be because she was totally kick-ass woman and spy named Vera Atkins, and who is actually credited by Ian Fleming for many things. Because both of these individuals are somewhat guarding England's interest, we are pairing it with this lovely little cigar called The Guardians of the Farm, Rambo. And if you can see here, it's got this adorable little bulldog face on it. So I think that's pretty fitting, actually. All right, so let's get started. So Guardians of the Farm refers to the dogs that actually guard the farm in Nicaragua that grows the tobacco that go in the cigar. And the corresponding sizes go with each individual dog they have. So they're named like Orpheus and JJ and Apollo. And this one just happens to be Rambo. And I assume that Rambo is one of the smaller dogs they have because it is the smaller Rothschild size. It is a 4.5 by 48 Rambo. It is a little spongy and it's got this smooth tawny brown wrapper, and it has a closed foot, which is not something that you see every day. It's got this lovely subtle wheat smell to it. And I have to say, I love this band. Just the simple gold and black and this super cute bulldog face on it. I'm a dog person anyway, but just imagining that this is what Rambo might actually look like is very good marketing. You got all the dog people, Guardians of the Farm. All right, let's do this then. Ooh. I call him Stanley. Got a little overzealous with that. Stanley. Yeah, first initial puff, lots of pepper, and lots of pepper, meaning chili pepper. So we got both the peppers, but in a really nice balanced way. So excited to see where this goes. So let's get started with the first book, Casino Royale, the first of the James Bond novels. This is the vintage cover, and at the bottom here it says, soon to be a major motion picture. Understatement of the year. So I actually enjoy myself a good spy novel, and I have recently read a very contemporary one and one that was written just around the same time as this, and they had in common very stark, plot-centered prose, which is not a bad thing at all. It's kind of like eating a health bar for lunch. It's like exactly what you need, and that's it. And health bar type plots are all well and good. They're great fun, but you know, sometimes a lady wants a steak dinner with Béarnaise sauce. Yeah, and obviously some kind of wonderful bread and butter too on the side. And those lovely scalloped potatoes. Oh, the diet before the holidays is not going to happen. So I went into this expecting power bar type of prose. Ian Fleming is a steak and Béarnaise sauce type of writer. I had no idea. He has some really lush, wonderful imagery. There's great external imagery and there's great internal imagery too. I had no idea James Bond had sinus issues. But by page 2, you can feel the pressure going on here. Maybe that should have been a note for Daniel Craig. Carry some extra hankies. Or maybe, you know, do one of those neti pot things where you rinse your sinuses out. Yeah, that would have been sexy. Darling, can you pass the handkerchief? I'm having a little bit of post-nasal drip. Okay. So obviously the focus of the description shifts as we get to know Bond better and the plot picks up. There's a lot of description of the cut of the clothes, both men's and women's. And it's obvious that Fleming knows his way around some fashion houses in Paris and the tailoring terms. And oh, the descriptions of the food. Oh, you must have a snack with you somewhere nearby or you're gonna regret it. Frankly, I don't know how they fit into the very sleek and tightly cut Dior dresses or the silk shirts that shoulder holster could barely fit under after eating like this, but you know, I guess it's called fiction for a reason, right? Okay. To the cigar. Now that we've got into this a little bit more, that initial burst of pepperiness faded quite fast, and there is a very smooth and subtle cedar flavor that's kind of becoming the star here. And there is a little bit of a dry earth flavor with that as well, which sounds very specific, but if you smoke cigars, you know that there is earth and there's earth, right? There's like the loamy garden soil. This is not that. This is more of a sandy, dusty type of earth flavor. Yeah, and there's also Lingering after it dissipates a little bit, there is a lingering green, I would say almost mineral type of flavor that hangs around on the palate. You can see that it is burning very nicely all the way around. I'm enjoying this quite a bit, actually. Okay. Back to the book. Something that I did not expect from this was that this book takes you rather deeply into the psychological side of Bond. The anxiety that this character has approaches Patricia Highsmith's Mr. Ripley, who is the most anxious and stressed out thriller character I have ever read. Reading that book makes me sweat. He's so anxious. Bond is not the super confident, almost superhero-esque type character. There is one point where Bond is talking to a colleague and he's like, you know what? This is not for me. This sucks. It's psychologically messed up and he's having this existential crisis and he wants to quit. That is something I totally did not expect. But it makes him very human and it really makes you empathize with what could otherwise be a standoffish type of character. Back to the cigar. This is lovely. And moving on. No. So this has turned into a very mild, smooth, just kind of vaguely cedary experience. Yeah, and there are some days when you want a flavor bomb, but there are some days where you want a more refined, subtle flavor, and that is this. It is quite lovely. It's burning really well. The ash has been pretty fragile. It doesn't seem to care if it stays on or not, but frankly, I didn't really care if the ash stayed on or not. I'm not one of those that likes to pile it up, so yeah, so it worked for me. So since this is a spy episode, I wanted to show you this. It has a little button here. I do not endorse any kind of weapons. Let's just make that very clear. However, since I'm half Asian, kind of like the dragon aspect of it, and once I found out that its eyes light up, oh my gosh, I was sold. So the fact that I get such a kick out of this $20 lighter, it makes my husband crazy because he saw me save and save and save all of my extra money for this lovely DuPont jet lighter, which I love, and yet the thing that makes me snort laughing every time I use it, 20 bucks. So before we move on to the next bit, I have to just say, Ian Fleming, Sean Connery, indeed. So there wasn't as much sexism in this as I kind of assumed there would be, just from the bits and pieces of the films that I've picked up. Of course, there is some, but from what I can gather, it seems to be just normal 1950s man-woman crap. But, you know, I felt that I should have a palate cleanser anyway, so I picked up this lovely book, Spymistress, about Vera Atkins, who was a real-life super-duper spy. And as we can see from the quote on the cover from Ian Fleming, she was one of his inspirations. In the world of spies, Vera Atkins was the boss. Need I say more? And there are many other quotes by him about how awesome she was. So she managed to fly under the radar, it seems, for two reasons. One, because she was female, but second, because she was never promoted in the ranks at all. And actually, it seems that is on the advice of Ian Fleming himself. The story in here is that Ian Fleming, who was himself a secretary of the Navy, said to her boss, you know, if you just say that she's your secretary, no one's gonna look twice at her. And that's what happened. No one looked twice at her for anything. And because of that, she was able to do some pretty darn amazing things. So Vera was actively spying both in Europe and in England, and oftentimes she would be parachuting back into England so that she didn't get picked up at the borders. There are some famous examples of her having to shoot her way out of situations that got a little bit too hairy. She would take over these big country estates and have training sessions for her spies and her agents. But what I particularly liked the most about this book was the little tidbits of fun facts you get. Like that they would plant bombs and things that looked like cow dung, or dead rats, or the methods they used to train some of the spies to deal with stress. This was all really fascinating. And the cast of characters that appear are also really fun. My favorite is a Polish countess. Her name was Christina Skarbek, and she would do things like ski over mountain ranges to deliver information. And of course, when you're doing that, it's dangerous. And yes, she was caught by the Gestapo one famous time where she convinced her captors to let her go by claiming she had tuberculosis and biting her tongue so much that she was bleeding all out of her mouth. And they were like, yes, lady, just leave, just go. So yeah, very clever, Sounds horrible, but it sounds better than a concentration camp, so good move, Christina. Okay, so getting down to the final third of this cigar, it's carrying on that lovely, subtle cedar, sweet airiness. The mineral is diminishing, and there is a little bit of pepper that is creeping back in, and I suspect will get stronger as I get toward the end. And so it's coming around full circle, which feels very, circular. It's continuing to smoke really well. I think this is gonna be one of those that I get down to here. I'm gonna be like, and while the flavors are mild, just something to be aware of, the strength is probably not so mild. Or maybe I just didn't eat enough today, but whew, yay. Going into the fourth third of this cigar, and by fourth third I mean how it stays with you after you're finished with it. The room notes are also very subtly sweet, and they don't really stay on you, which is a positive thing if maybe after you're done you have to go, I don't know, have tea with your little niece, or that holiday. A lot of us like to have a cigar, but maybe not everyone in your family appreciates the odor on you, so this would be a good choice for that. Okay, to sum up the cigar, I really like the size. I really love the mild flavor. I love how it looks. I love the concept that they're named after their dogs. Overall, yeah, this is just a really pleasant experience. And likewise with the books. If you're into details about history and some maybe unexplored characters, this is a great one. And this was a lot of fun. And people who are into more literary types of books, you might be pleasantly surprised with this one. And not to give away any spoilers, but the last line of the book, devastating. In a good way. And I have to say, I did learn something from these books that I absolutely do not want to be a spy. Way too much physical pain. Okay, before I go, I would like to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my tasting panel. I want to just give a really quick shout out to friends of the family, Dennis and Fiona. Hello, thank you for watching. Love to Sammy. So for next time, I think we're gonna have another multi-book episode having to do with one of my favorite worlds that has both a book and a movie. And that is The Princess Bride. So please do come back for that. It should be a blast. In the meantime, I hope you are discovering and smoking some wonderful cigars. I hope you're reading some really fun books. And of course, I hope you're doing them both at the same time. Thank you so much again. I hope to see you soon. Oh, hello, it's my dog.
Hi, sweetness.
All right, I know, you want to be fed. Sorry, I gotta go feed my dog.